Wall Street executives with advanced degrees in mathematics routinely go bankrupt. Meanwhile, people with zero professional training frequently die as multimillionaires. Ronald Read spent 25 years fixing cars and another 17 sweeping floors as a janitor. When he passed away, his estate was worth $8 million. He didn't invent a product or win the lottery. He saved what he could and left those savings alone for decades. Read's outcome shows how behavior, the ability to act with patience, acts as a primary filter for long-term success. In his case, consistent habits were more effective than high-level financial intellect. Financial systems are often modeled as physics problems, assuming market outcomes are driven strictly by formulas and logic. In practice, market movements trace back to human emotion, the ego, status-seeking, and panic of individual participants. One of the most significant tools in this environment is compound interest. Compounding is the process where the interest earned on an investment begins to earn its own interest over time. In fact, Albert Einstein reportedly called it the eighth wonder of the world. Building long-term wealth requires an investor to master the math of compounding while protecting that math from their own psychological impulses. Compounding functions as an accelerating cycle. By reinvesting returns, the growth of a portfolio eventually begins to feed on itself. This chart compares an early saver starting at age 25 against a late saver waiting until 35 with larger monthly contributions. At 65, the early saver contributed less out-of-pocket capital, but ends up with drastically more wealth. In the formula for compounding, time is the exponent. This means the duration of an investment does more heavy lifting than the principal amount you start with. In wealth accumulation, the temporal advantage of an early start outweighs the strategy of starting late with more money. If this growth is so predictable, why do so many fail to reach the payoff? This is the valley of disappointment. In the first decade of investing, consistent saving habits result in a trajectory that looks flat. During this phase, actual progress stays well below what we expect to see. Consider the stonecutter. He hits a rock 100 times without a crack. Then, on the 101st strike, the stone splits in half. The effort from those early strikes is being stored. Wealth requires surviving the psychological boredom of the middle phase before the breakthrough occurs. The stock market has returned a long-term average of 10% annually, but that average is rarely experienced in any single year. The actual path is a jagged sawtooth of extreme crashes and rapid spikes. These drops trigger the impulse to panic and sell, instantly destroying the compounding curve before reaching its full potential. Volatility is the price of admission required to ride the compounding curve. It is a mandatory cost of participating in long-term growth. Successful investors endure the pain of that fee to capture the recovery that follows. At the end of a 40-year horizon, the mathematical growth finally overtakes the effort of the investor. On this curve, 60 to 90% of the total wealth is generated during the final decade. This exponential payoff follows the 30 years of maintenance required to keep the curve intact. As we look past the final numbers, the focus shifts to the actual purpose of building wealth. True wealth is often found in what we choose not to do. It exists in the status symbols we don't buy and the money we choose not to spend. This capital buys the ability to control your own schedule. It provides autonomy and the independence to make decisions aligned with your own values. Achieving this freedom requires the humility to start early, the discipline to wait through the boring middle, and the emotional control to let time do the work.